Welcome to Piano Inspires podcast, celebrating pianists, teachers, and innovators as they share their inspiring stories about the transformative power of music.
My name is Andrea McAlister, and I'm here with Dr. Michelle Conda. Michelle Conda is the head of keyboard studies at the University of Cincinnati College-Conservatory of Music, where she's also professor of piano pedagogy and secondary piano. And also, in addition to all of that, is the 2023 Lifetime Achievement Award recipient from the Francis Clark Center. And so well-deserving.
Thank you.
Michelle and I have known each other for
27 years.
27 years. And I'm so excited about this conversation because it's very rare that we get to just sit down and talk about life and music and how you got to be where you are and all of those challenges you had to overcome or maybe are still trying to overcome, and just thoughts on the future of music. So first of all, what did you think when you received the notice that you were the recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award?
I thought there was a mistake. I know who the past recipients are. My heroes are all there: Jane McGraw, Richard Cronister, Marvin Blickenstaff, E.L. Lancaster, Michelle Conda. Wow. What an honor. It took me a good week to digest it, and it's still taking me time to think I deserve it. But I am so happy to receive it. Thank you so much.
Well, it was when your name was announced as the recipient, there was just I was not surprised that it was your name, because look at the legacy you have created. And you mentioned those names of Jane McGraw and E.L. Lancaster, and you may be their legacy, but I see all of the students that have come out of CCM in the past 27 years, and there is no doubt.
Well, that's so interesting you should say that, because that's how I finally got around to the idea that maybe it's okay. Because I actually am not getting this award myself. It's my students. It's the students that go back to, you were my first, going back to there to now, and to see what they've been doing all these years. It's just so inspiring to me. I've already seen at least 3 or 4 here, people that said, I was never going to go to a conference, and you talked me into it, and I was so shy, and now here I am a part of it. It's even more interesting and wonderful that we come from a conservatory background. CCM is a conservatory of music, and nobody took part in this sort of thing. Actually, there's still no pedagogy cognate major. Well, there's a cognate, which is a minor, but there's no pedagogy major, no pedagogy masters. But somehow we have managed to make pedagogy a big focus at CCM, and I'm so pleased.
And that all goes back to one individual, and that is you, making that all happen. So on behalf of the many students that have gone through the program and are where they are because of you, we all say a big thank you, and know that you are absolutely deserving of this Lifetime Achievement Award.
Well, I do want to say that it was not easy to teach and actually the first email I sent out was to Jane McGraw, because she was my piano teacher and my mentor in my doctorate. And I said, Jane, do people really understand how hard it is to do what I did? And was it worthwhile or not? For many years, I thought, is this worthwhile? Should I be keeping this up? Should I be putting my energy into this? Because I'm at a conservatory. It's very difficult. And I'm going to go back to when you started, when you were there. At the time, it was my second year. No, first year. I met you my first year there. And I actually met you in my audition.
You did.
You played for me Rachmaninoff. I think it was G minor or C sharp minor.
It was a prelude.
Yeah, it was a Rachmaninoff
I do
prelude.
not remember.
And it was a really nice one. You did a good job, by the way. I still remember you playing.
Oh, I clearly remember it.
Oh, I hope I didn't scare you to death.
Oh no, I was scared to death well before. You're the one who calmed me down.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good. But you grabbed on to where I was going way back then. And that is what kept me going. You, those first couple years, several other people through the way, students that kept me going, kept me moving forward, because there's always been this little rift between pedagogy and performance. Hopefully, we're working hard on that now to get that not to be a rift, but a learning situation between the two sets of people. That's what I feel has been happening lately. And it just took a lot of time. You know, when I first started at the conservatory, my focus, by the way, is adult learning. And I'm a big believer that if you let adults do what they want to do, they're better off doing it. You know. But I remember thinking even back then, do people really understand how to let go and let people learn? And then I just didn't. Well, even back then, it was difficult because I didn't have a colleague. Typical at universities, there are very few pedagogy people. 1, 2, maybe if you're lucky. And so when I was at the conservatory, I talked to some people about this, and they said, you know what? You need to broaden your horizons. You need to get involved with organizations that will help you. INWOX, NCKP, INWOX, MTNA, and GP3, which was my baby from way back, and which you are now a part of. GP3 is the National Group Piano Pedagogy Forum. You could say that 5 times, I'll buy you a drink.
Or just GP3, and then make it easy.
Yeah, that's how I did it. I reduced the name myself, actually, because I was the head of the very first one. But
and what year was that?
You know, I cannot remember, but my child, who is now 26, was still not walking, I believe. He was just a baby. So it's got to have been over 20 years ago. We were in Norman, Oklahoma when we envisioned that, by the way. And there are several people that are still involved, very much involved, with NCKP and with other organizations that we met at a place called the Mont. And we were sitting there thinking, you know, we have something to say, especially with group piano, because group piano was still somewhat in its infancy. So we decided and envisioned something for people that really wanted to get involved with group piano and the field of pedagogy. It was still in its infancy. Can I give a shout out to a couple people now?
Absolutely.
This is so long ago, none of you are going to remember this, but there was a woman named Annabelle Bognar. She was at Bowling Green State University. Mm-hmm. She was my first real mentor in group teaching. And I have to tell you, I just looked at some music that's out right now. People are still using some of the ideas and pieces she taught way back then. Martha Hilly was also a part of that. So a shout out to Martha, definitely. I have to do a shout out to Andrea, who kept me going before when I didn't know if I really wanted to put that kind of effort. No, you know what though? To be honest, I'm not a quitter.
No.
It doesn't matter what it is, I'm not going to quit. It'll happen with time. And that's sort of how I began this whole world of teaching and pedagogy, etc.
And now look at where you are and all the experiences you've had and all of the, building GP3. And it's still going strong after so many years. And
it is.
And just so many areas of the profession that you have touched, or your students have gone on to create these resources or have touched other lives in ways that really started with you.
That's so interesting you bring that up, because that's why I get so excited. The piano lab. I wanted changes in a piano lab to make it more student-centered so that they could pick people and I wanted it virtual. I wanted it so that I don't have to control it. One of my students, Giuliano Graniti, we got a grant to put in a virtual piano lab, and it's just so exciting. And he's getting international attention for this. Curtis Pavey, I don't know if you know Curtis. Oh, what a marvelous man. I actually said, I don't know anything as a pianist on how to play the organ. How to play the harpsichord.
Mm-hmm.
So he and I he invented a little class that we learned how to play as a pianist harpsichord. And I said, well, Curtis, why don't you pull all those materials together and make a book? Oh my God, it's fabulous. It's a wonderful book, wonderful resource. And now I'm so proud of him and what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I could say this for 1,000 different people, though. That's the award. The award goes to you guys out there.
Well, one thing that I've always admired about you so from the very first master class that you gave at CCM, and I was the little undergrad, very nervous guinea pig, having to sit in front of all of those graduate students and faculty and deans and everything. And, you walked in and I performed, you came to the piano, and it was your excitement about the music we were creating together.
Right.
That you find so much joy in what you do.
I do. And I'm excited when I see my students come to their own on this sort of thing. Going back to when you played, I wasn't nervous for your performance. I was nervous for you. So my job was to help you feel less nervous. Another thing is, music is something we do create together. That's part of my whole field of andragogy. We create it together. And so why would I do anything to make that not happen? I'm going to do whatever I can to help that happen. Keeping the eyes on the prize, which is the music.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, let's admit it, we're part of the music. Everybody plays differently and creates their own voice and creates their own sound and creates their own inspiration for us to listen to. That's why we don't just listen to one recording of anything. And that's why it's still exciting to teach. Everybody is different and brings something different to my life. I bring something to them, but they bring something to me also.
Now, let's dive back a little bit,
Okay.
Because we're talking about, this passion and the experience of making music. Was this something that you always were called to do? So when you were young and starting lessons, and did you always have that joy about making music? Was there ever a time that you thought, I don't know if this is something that I love enough to make my profession, or I don't want to practice today?
Oh, I go every day. I don't want to practice today. Practicing is one of those things that I have a saying, it's called butt to the bench. Once you get your butt to the bench, it's lots of fun, but there's a lot of things that can get in the way of that. Mm-hmm. So it takes a lot of discipline to do that. But to answer your first part of your question, by age 7, when I could write my first little essay about what you're going to do when you grow up, I'm going to be a piano teacher. But even before that, the piano was mine. When I was like 5 years old, we got a piano for Christmas. And I actually, on one of the pictures I sent in, they show me at that age when I was this little curly-haired girl. I was cute then. And
you're cute now.
Yeah, right. But still, my piano's in the background. My piano. My sisters were not allowed to play it. That was my piano. And then, after a year or two, I had to get my tonsils out. I did not want to get my tonsils out. I acted naughty and finally ended up having to go home because I got a fever. But in the meantime, I made life miserable for everybody at the hospital, everyone. Well, I still had to get them out. So my mother baited me. She goes, if you are a nice girl, you can get piano lessons. I was the nicest girl you've ever seen. And I got my piano lessons, and it was so great. I practiced every day. I think the things that really helped me a lot as a child, first of all, my mother, she was still my inspiration. She's 95, still on her own, still plays the piano.
Oh, great.
Oh, yeah. She would inspire me to practice. She would inspire, I love hearing you play this. She wouldn't correct me ever. Well, She didn't like me chewing gum. But besides that, she wouldn't correct me. And just music making became just a joy. Then, honestly, playing for church. Because when you first start playing for church, I probably was horrible. I didn't know that. Everybody said I did great. And then you just keep playing, and you play for this musical and that musical in your life. Being a pianist is not a job. It's a lifestyle. And it was my lifestyle all through high school, all through grade school. Then I went to college my freshman year. And for one brief week, I said, I think I want to be a philosophy major.
Oh.
That week went pretty fast. What happened is I got Angie Schmid, my piano teacher, who inspired me to go deep into music. Deep into music. I had no idea how deep you could go into music. And that was it. I finished my philosophy course and I was out. Music became the center of my life again. You fight it your whole life, kind of. If you're a faculty member, you can get tuition remission. And I've looked through course catalogs before, like we all do, and say, oh, maybe I'll do this, but when it really comes down to it, I've been led in this direction. The only other part of this direction I've been led also to is the teaching element. And I started teaching when I was very young, probably 8, 9, 10 years old.
That's very young.
Yeah.
Who were you teaching?
The neighborhood kids, everybody. Well, I was already playing pretty well, by 10. And I just ended up teaching all the neighborhood kids. Oh my God, I was such a horrible, horrible teacher. But luckily, they were very forgiving of my teaching. And I got better, and I got better. And the more I got better, the better I did better job teaching. Also, the more I became student-centered and less, this is what I want you to do, and really pay attention to how someone's learning, I got even better. Then, tell me if I bore you, but I started to teach community classes. These are evening courses. And I just loved teaching them. There'd be a waiting list for these classes. And I couldn't understand what I was doing right. That's why I decided to get my doctorate, is because I wanted to find out what I was doing right. And thank you, and thank all the people from the University of Oklahoma. You helped me, encouraged me. And when I learned how people can encourage you to do well, that also changed my teaching. Because I learned encouragement is so much better than negative talk.
Well, it's interesting to hear you talk about the student-centered part of your teaching and how that developed. It takes some people decades to learn that that's how students learn best, and encouragement is how students learn best. And it seems like that's just something that you realized from an early age. Is there a way you fell into that?
I did. And I think a lot of it is just because I always brought home the stray. That's what my mom said. I brought home the stray people, the stray animals, the stray everything, because I wanted them to feel better. I wanted them to have a better life. And it's always been like that for me since a very early age. I just turned it over into my teaching. I still would bring home stray animals. And I have brought home 2 cats, I'm sorry to say.
Oh, you shouldn't be sorry about that.
My husband is in the room.
He's sorry to say
He's sorry
that
to
you
hear me
brought
say
home.
that. But it was the right thing to do. And that's still what I think about teaching. The right thing to do is to be student-centered.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to say it was easy. When I was a freshman, you don't realize how much practicing you have to put in. And I was a first generation college from my family. We didn't have money. I remember there was one point of time that I was living on canned ravioli or something like that. Canned burritos for like a month. I went to England with the marching band. I took $20 with me and brought back 10 because I needed it. There were real poor times that I had to live through, but that's okay. That's okay. I made it.
Yeah, and you have certainly made it.
Ah,
Yes.
But you have to, anybody has to have perseverance if you're going to do whatever you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you can't be afraid when you fail. It's hard. It's easy to blame someone else for your failure, but that's not going to get you to the next step. You have to find the thread of truth in why you failed, and it might be just a thread, and then move on, improve, do better, find out how you fix it, and move on.
Mm-hmm. How do you instill that into students who might not have that mindset?
It's funny you should ask that right now. I have 2 students right now that are suffering from I made the finalist in a job, and I didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really hard position to be in. And they tried so hard and worked so hard. But, they will get it, but they can't just stop. Well, they have a choice. You either stop and get out of music, or you figure out a little thread of truth to why you didn't get the job and fix it. You can't just sit still. You've got to work on it. Do something. We can always get better in whatever we do, or broaden. I think a lot of times pianists think 5 more hours in the practice room will do it. Sometimes it's the soft skills that need work.
Mm-hmm.
Not the playing. The playing, as you can imagine, at the conservatory is amazing. Well, you were there,
Well, I know. And I think that's one of the challenges for especially the generation of students we have now. I feel like I was very fortunate to have graduated when I did, because the number of students coming out with a DMA in piano performance with a cognate in piano pedagogy were very few. But now it seems like there's just so many more. How do you help these students who are facing this competition? Because I know you deal with this
every day,
every year when you have the next graduating class, and they come to you and say, what do I do now?
Well, for one thing, you've got to take a realistic view on what you're looking for. Are you applying for a job that you really maybe aren't ready to get or don't have the skills for? Number one. Another thing I notice for a lot of the students is they're not willing to work their way up. I'm bringing up another wonderful person, Curtis Pavey. And I know I brought him up already today, who's super talented. And when I first met him, I did not accept him as a GA because I didn't know if he had that personality to be in front of class. Mm-hmm. Well, boy, did he prove me wrong. But he also worked hard on it and how to do it. And he also took opportunities, my gosh. He worked with Richard Van Dyke from NKU, Northern Kentucky. He works for, I think he's now working as a member of NCKP, working with you all.
Yes.
He's taking opportunities. And I think that I tell students, you need to grab onto opportunities. You can't sit in the back of the room. There are 100 pianists sitting in the back of the room. What makes you special? It's not 2 hours more in the practice room. You're already putting as many hours in before you hurt yourself. Mm-hmm. It's other things you need to work on. Look around. What can you do to make it better for yourself?
Right.
Yeah. But also, pianists tend to be introverts. You're an introvert. Are you an introvert?
Yes.
I am too. It's not something anybody would ever know about me, but it's very difficult for me to even come to a conference and get out around people. It takes me, I have to really shore myself up and think, because once I do it, I really enjoy it and it's lots of fun. But I am an introvert by nature. So, and I'm married to an extrovert. You would think of us being opposite, we aren't. So for an introvert, it's even harder. You have to work even harder to get that out there among people. And if you keep in mind, it's not just the prize of you getting a job. It's the idea that you might have something to help influence a new generation of people.
Yes. Yeah, and that's such an interesting and inspiring way of looking at the future It's not necessarily I need to get a job. Well, of course,
We all want
we
jobs.
all want jobs, but to think about how do I want to influence the next generation of students or the next generation of teachers? And how do you see that looking? If we were having this conversation in 2033 instead of 2023, what do you think is going to change over the next decade or two?
You know what is changing right now? I'm not going to put it that far ahead. I think it's happening now. I look at, again, some of my students like Brendan Jacklin. He's got a website now with underrepresented music that he and his wife, Susan, are putting together and have been working on for years. And that's their passion. His passion also is movie music. I don't know if you know about this. It's fabulous. It's great. And the idea of pulling this out is wonderful. With let's see, who else? Connor Chi. A little did I know he was a CCM graduate, a master's degree. But that was back when I was first starting and I was overwhelmed with just life. And I look at what he's done. And he hasn't done it just by sitting back and doing the status quo. He's found a passion in it. My passion's always been teaching.
How do you think people stepping up and following their passions? So we're talking about the underrepresented composers website and broadening the landscape of the music we play and the music we teach and just kind of our general understanding of the world. Do you think as that shifts that we're gonna go on different layers here, but we're teaching a different type of student to go out and teach?
And isn't that exciting?
And it is, because they are going out to teach a different type of student themselves.
And that's why you need to learn from them as much as they learn from you. Yeah, they are teaching a different type of student. Well, you and I are both lucky too, because we have children that are that age of the new world, I'm going to say. And I learned from my son a lot. Your daughter, she's probably about in her teens?
She's 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see the different age, how, and it changes you. My son's 26 now, and he's a teacher in a high school. He teaches math. And he explains to me things that are happening out there. And as long as I'm open-minded about it, that's good. And I know you are, because that's just your nature. But I'm going to go back to what you said about layers. There are 3 layers right there in terms of what I think of me as the primary, whatever you want, parent familia or something. There, I don't know if you've ever watched Brother, Where Art Thou? It's a wonderful movie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then comes the ones that I'm teaching, and then the ones they're teaching.
Right.
And we all shouldn't do the same things. We all have different purposes. My purpose is to excite the next people to do what they are already doing and do it and help them do it better. Their job is to do what they're doing and excite the next group of people. So my job itself is not, at least to me personally, my love is andragogy, my love is pedagogy, my love is this and that. But for instance, Connor, he's got a different love. My job is to encourage that love and listen to it. And I'm just amazed by it, and to be amazed by it and to help him and other people introduce them. Listen to this. Listen to what I hear. Look what this person is doing. That's my job on this first layer. And their job is to get the world on board.
I see these generations and how we're changing and how, in a way, how technology is changing the world.
Which I love.
You were one of the first to really embrace
I love
technology in the classroom. And I remember all of the assignments we had and, really diving into it. And you really encouraged us to do that. How did it feel to be the first or one of the first to really get involved in that part of
my
education?
world?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you see, it's my love. Again, it's my passion. I had like the first Mac that you could get out there. I bought the first Mac Classic or whatever. I wish I would have kept it. It's worth money now.
Mm.
Yeah, but I loved it. And the problem isn't, the complicated thing isn't me using technology. The problem is getting other people to embrace it also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not teaching. What is that? Influencing somehow.
You're an influencer.
I must be an influencer.
You were one of the first influencers before influencers were a thing. So technology, yes, because really it's not an easy task to integrate technology, especially those early technologies,
which were very hard to use,
seamlessly into the educational setting where it elevated what you were doing without distracting. And you did it so well.
Thank you. Thank you.
That couldn't have been easy.
It wasn't hard. And I'm going to go back to, it wasn't hard because if you think, again, I'm going to call it the eye on the prize. If the technology is going to help you with the eye on the prize, then great. All I could think of is some of these fun little games. The kids would play them and learn how to read music. Whoa, what a thought. Some of these ideas of putting things even online or using, back then, people didn't even know how to use Microsoft Word. They didn't know how to do a database. I have to tell you about another one of my ex-students. His name is Damon Stevens. Do you remember Damon?
I do.
Oh my gosh. Damon, I gave a project of actually making an online like accompaniment and doing, and I don't even know what to call it now because it's changed so much in the last few years, but stylized accompaniment where you had to figure it out with a melody and etc.
Right.
And he was so upset with me because I made him do that. He was like, why do I have to do that? I don't. He got a job right after that where he had to do that for a living.
Oh, well.
Yeah. And it turned out he kind of liked it. Sometimes you just have to give people a little nudge and they might like it.
You never know.
You never know. You mentioned before something, you're talking about pedagogy and that we are teaching people how to teach, and that that whole thing has scared me for so long, because what does a teacher of pedagogy really do? So it took me a lot of years, until even now, and you actually said it really well, but I didn't understand it until later, which is that it's not what I teach, but it's how I teach. It's what is how am I helping a student? Are they understanding the material? And also, my job is how to sequence materials. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times you can do that with any materials, handwritten, method books. It doesn't matter. It's that, how do I move from one to next? That was, so now I'm finally starting to understand now. No. But next week I'll probably understand something else. And I'm going to do the Francis Clark thing. I know I am, which is in 6 weeks I'm going to say, well, I believed this 6 weeks ago, but I believe something else now. Francis was never afraid to change. And I also think that's really important for a teacher to be open for new ideas and new thoughts.
Well, because you're learning.
Always.
Always.
That's half the fun of it.
Oh, it is. Every new year brings new learning for the teachers as much as the students.
That's what I'm talking about.
So, absolutely.
Well put.
So we will end with 3 questions.
Okay.
First, what has been your greatest challenge in your many years of teaching and being with music?
It's probably the biggest challenge is where I work, and the fact that I've had to be in the gap in a conservatory where pedagogy was not something that was stressed. And again, I'm going to say a lot of that has to do with we have so many introverted students that probably affected that greatly.
Mm-hmm.
That was my biggest challenge. Other challenges through the years have been physical challenges, like when I broke my wrist, when I broke my leg.
Yes.
Those were challenges, but I got through them. The biggest support that got me through all this was my husband.
Mm-hmm.
My husband has been amazing. Back when I had Nicholas, our child, we didn't have family leave. He quit his job to stay home and be a stay-home dad. I don't think, and even now, my job doesn't end. It's not a 9-to-5 job. Our job it's a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just received a phone call from work.
Yes.
That's kind of important. I'll pick it up later. But he has to pick up the slack.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so thankful.
Well, and what you said about falling in the gap,
Yeah.
I think that is a challenge. And so many pedagogy professors or those who work in this field feel that gap wherever they are.
Oh, I agree.
And you've created this community where we don't feel so alone in our jobs because you've created communities outside of that institution where we do feel like, oh, these are our people.
Yes. Well, and like I said, it was told for me from a very beginning, if I'm going to make it, I have to have a support group.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I learned along the way is kindness works a lot better than negativity. So when I worked with the people in Oklahoma, they were so kind and so wonderful and so caring. And so you know what? I had to pay it forward. And I was fortunate to have people. I still have students that come in and they're just that way. They're just wonderful group people that want to pay it forward.
Oh, that's great. Well, my next question is, you could probably go on forever. So I'll try to limit you to one. What is your greatest accomplishment?
Besides getting this award, this is probably the greatest accomplishment. But my other really, really great accomplishment was playing Prokofiev Third with orchestra.
When was that?
That was about 5 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, and since then I've played McDowell, and I've maintained playing a concerto here and there and everywhere. But the Prokofiev 3, holy cannoli. That was amazing.
That is a good way to describe that. Holy cannoli. Well, we will end with this question, and I know you've had some time to think about this, but this is the Piano Inspires podcast. And,
I know it is.
And we have the Piano Inspires website and the home of the Francis Clark Center. And there's so many ways you can answer this, but how does piano inspire? How does it inspire you or the community or the world?
That's a huge question, so I'm just going to give you a story.
Okay.
I told you my mother is 95. My father-in-law is 89. My father-in-law is very sad. And my mother also, they both lost their spouses. You know, they're older. Mm-hmm. I will sit at the piano and they will sing. And they'll sing together. And they'll sing apart. And they love it. And I'm inspired every time I sit down and hear them happy.
Well, that was a beautiful story. And I think that's a great note to end on.
I agree. A note?
A note.
Oh, that was excellent.
Note to end on. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Been my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome.
This was fun.
We'll do it again sometime.
Okay. Bye-bye.
The Francis Clark Center is a not-for-profit educational organization that serves the advancement of piano teaching, learning, and performing. Divisions include Piano Magazine, Piano Inspires Kids, Journal for Piano Research, National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, the New School for Music Study, Piano Education Press, International Online Teacher Education, and Piano Inspires Online Community Hub. Please visit us at pianoinspires.com to learn more about our impactful work and inspiring community.